background on Jesus that they have researched so far? Like, does he have connections to Buddhism?
There's theories, like, do you know how there's the missing years? Like, when Jesus was...
Between his childhood days.
Yeah, between 13 and 30. There's all those years no one knows what happened. And some people think he went east to, because, there's a story in 13 where he, went to the temple. That's the last story before he comes back. And he went to the temple, and basically the priests were telling him something about something, and he kind of schooled them, no, that's not right, it's this, and whatever. And so some people think that when he was young, he was already he was, you know how there's different types of genius, or intelligence, emotional intelligence, math intelligence, linguistic, all those, kinetic, the existential is one of them. And so some people think he was just kind of an existential genius, and left in his early, late teens, early 20s to go seek out some truth, and he went east. And now the Buddha had long been dead for hundreds of years, but Buddhism was established by then. So they don't think that he went and became Buddhist, but that he went and learned of Buddhism and learned of Hinduism and learned of Taoism and Jainism and just all those Eastern traditions.
Yeah.
And it was oh, this is it for sure. And he came back and kind of made his own. But he had already been raised in the religion he was raised in, so that they think that Christianity originally was a combination of the Semitic religions that existed around Jesus' time. So remember, before Jesus, there was just the Old Testament, and that was Christianity. It's the ancient Semitic.
Mm-hmm.
It was just the Old Testament, that was their God, God. There was no Jesus forgiveness, it was just God, the fire and brimstone God in the Old Testament. That's all they had. Now, there was some other stories in the Old Testament that are showing a little nicer side to him, but it was just that. It was just God, and so they think that he was raised on that, went east, took that, combined it, and that's what that's what Jesus Christianity was. And then the people who studied true Christianity, people loved him so much, and he gained so many followers that when he died, people immediately started to actively co-opt his teachings. So the old school Christianity co-opted his teachings, got rid of much as the nonsense that they could, and because they saw how much people loved his teachings, so they still kept the forgiveness and this and that and then whatever, but they basically co-opted his teachings and said, oh no, the reason that you like him so much, the reason that he's so popular and you are all his followers, is because he's actually our God's son. So you really aren't his followers, you're ours. And over years and years, they just totally absorbed and cut out his original stuff, and just to co-opted him into his own. So Christianity was always the same. It was just bullshit. But the New Testament was totally butchered, and if you want to be a true Christian, Old Testament only. If you want to be a Jesus Christian, then you gotta have the Nag Hammadi scriptures. Then they're the only true Jesus Christianity is so basically, if you want to be a Christian, be Jewish. That's what you got to be. Be Jewish. They had it right. They were, because when basically Jews are just the people who, when Jesus came around, were no, that guy's crazy. He went east. That guy's this mad Buddhist. Yeah. He has nothing to do with us. And then the Catholics were oh no, we see an opportunity here. The Jews are the real people. They're the real Christians that were no, we're not doing that. That's not real. That's not Christianity, we're not going to change our shit. So they just stuck with it. So if you want to be a Christian, be Jewish. If you want to be
Whatever. Jesus.
If you want to follow Jesus' shit, be a Gnostic Christian.
That's interesting. Where do you find yourself on all of it?
Where do I find myself?
Yeah, because you've been through like these religions, Buddhism and Christianity so far, right? But I'm sure you went and read some other religions.
I mean, Christianity, I was like all in, you know. But once I left, I became extremely skeptical. So I would never be caught up in a religion ever again in my life like I was with Christianity. Just because, like, even when I got really into Buddhism and I was getting a little crazy with that, it was not even close. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like to where it was with Christianity.
Cool. So I got the mic set up. Is there a topic you want to start off with first? But before we do, you got some water I can...
Yeah, but let's see. Yeah, we actually don't do bottles anymore, but
Yeah, I see you guys got that big ass.
yeah, right here. Just grab a glass and fill it up. This water is so fucking good for you. It's alkaline.
So what is it supposed to be?
9 to 10 pH. Well, first of all, it prevents cancer. You're far less likely to get cancer if you drink purely alkaline water. And second of all, because like people always, some bottled water companies advertise like our water has a perfect pH of 7 because that's what we are. We're neutral.
Yeah. You mean the water in our body is pH 7?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mostly. Sometimes it's a little more or less, but around that. And people at water bottle companies advertise that, but the fact is your body doesn't want that. So when you drink neutral water, it's the same as you. So it just kind of sits there, right? If you drink something below a 7, so there's alkaline and what's the other one? Alkaline and base. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you drink base water, which would taste horrible by the way, if you would drink base water, it would actually dehydrate you. Now, if you drink alkaline water, because it's a higher pH, your body actually absorbs it far easier. And so it hydrates you way quicker.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So
I'm gonna have to look into that.
And it has natural antioxidant properties.
That's the shit that really interests me.
Cancer can't thrive in alkaline environments. So if you drink a lot of alkaline water, it's known to be good for cancer.
That's interesting.
Now, there's things that probably affect it more than alkaline water, but why not give you every, like, I don't know, like, it's funny. So, like, are we live, by the way?
Yeah.
So, it's funny, since I've been playing the new Zelda, Breath of the Wild, it's funny how you can look at, like, situations in life and see them through the lens of like a video game that's like that.
Yeah.
Where like, you know, experience points and this and that and level up and like all those sorts of things.
Yeah.
It's funny like how you could almost live your life that way, or like we do in a way, you know.
Yeah, we
like,
do. I mean,
so like this is like alkaline water is just like a couple extra anti-cancer points.
Yeah.
You know, and so there's other things that have way more anti-cancer points, but if it's something as simple as drinking water that you're going to do anyways, you might as well take them where you can get them.
and I mean, these games are developed by people who are like living this shit too.
Yeah.
I really wonder what kind of people they all have to be pretty well educated to have had that job, right?
Yeah, I assume.
Especially the people on these teams.
Or they're, yeah, definitely.
Because there are independent game developers, but even those, when they get to the level of making games that are like mass produced, I feel like good idea. I feel like they have to have people who are well educated anyways.
Yeah. Have you seen it, or I know you have, that guy who made the satire on like life as a video game?
Yeah. What was his name? That guy is dope. He just put out a new video too.
That was so funny. I wish, I almost want to know because that guy deserves a shout out. That was funny. But like where there was like the casually explained.
Yeah.
It's called casual. The person who wrote it, his moniker is Casually Explained, and I think the video is called Humanity. But if you just it, or maybe it's yeah, I think it's Humanity. I think it's just called Humanity or Life, something like that. But if you just look up his videos, you'll find it. There's a couple more, and they're really funny. Like they use like that video game lens to view like life and evolution and reality in general. It's so funny.
It's hilarious. He
as if it's basically as if we like reality was a simulation and like what it would be like on the simulator's end.
Yeah.
Like if we really are a video game, like say we are in a simulation and say it is a video game that like people buy and like we're just like being played out basically. It's really funny, totally worth watching.
Yeah, that was a cool video with the 18-year tutorial.
Yeah, 18-year tutorial.
And then he refers to the ages as levels. So when you reach level 80, you already have like a certain amount of experience to go ahead and...
Yeah. And you can, like, some people focus in on specific skill sets and this and that. And
yeah.
But when I was thinking of it before, I was thinking like how interesting it is how like you can choose a skill set, you can raise your experience on it, depending on like your quote unquote like character type. You might have certain inborn advantages to that skill set.
Yeah.
But then you can take skill sets and combine them into like meta skills where you have to use a bunch of different skill sets of high and with high experience in them together to perform some function that's like some higher function, you know. It's really interesting.
I think that's a cool way to look at it too. Video games really give like a cool way to look at life too, because I know like after a while I started thinking of life like that too. Like,
well, some people think it's cooler
to think of life like that.
No, to like cooler than life itself.
Oh, the video games?
Yeah, because like some people like that type of world so much that that's all they do. Like video game addiction is a real thing. Yeah, it is real. Especially games like World of Warcraft, like which is that type of game. You know, those massive online games where you gain experience in different things and dude, those games are pretty crazy.
Dude, Pierce was into that.
Yeah. And you know, they're going to get even more advanced. It's going to get to the point where like you are, you know, in the game basically, and like I don't know, where it can go after that is like unimaginable. Like you can really do some crazy stuff.
But there's also, they've taken games to the competitive level now too, right? Like,
yes, yeah.
And
games, right?
Yeah, and those are even like, I would say
or
that
esports.
that's brought like a whole different and a very interesting spotlight to the video gamers too, because a lot of the really good video gamers don't look like your typical. I mean, nowadays nothing looks as typical as it was before. I think you made a post where like the bully is like shoving a nerd into a locker, but both are into the same thing.
Yeah.
And the spotlight being shown on video gamers now is kind of similar, because the really good video gamers are good in things, like in all kinds of things outside of video games too. Like these guys are like working out physically and shit. And when they get to their games, they're like well-rounded in everything. And it just all culminates into like this superhuman who's able to do shit.
Yeah. I think that there's a difference too between those types of gamers and the gamers that
Are like super consumed in it.
Yeah.
Like the World of Warcraft
yeah,
ones.
because I feel like the games where they compete, that's more like what Call of Duty type games, like those types of.
Well, there's the World of Warcraft competition
really?
ones too, yeah.
Interesting. So maybe it's not so big of a difference, but I do know there is two types out there. You know, people that are like, they're almost like sports people, but they like video games. Like they're almost like jocks.
Yeah.
But they're video game jocks.
No, they really are.
But then there's people that are like
That just live it.
like basically my life sucks so much that I need to be cool somewhere.
Yeah.
Or whatever, you know, like.
Yeah, that's their whole social thing.
Yeah.
And it's regardless of if they are good in the game. And this is where I think I can see what you're getting at. Or at least this is what I see when drawing comparisons to what you're explaining, is like there are people who aren't like the jock looking video gamers who kind of live this video game thing socially.
Yeah.
And they don't exactly always have to be good, but it doesn't matter if they're like fully consumed in the game. Like this is their life now. And
Yeah.
they probably look like what I guess people would think a video gamer looks like sloppy and talking about things that don't matter in real life. But
because they're sharp as fuck in the game.
Yeah.
That's the only time people see them. you know? And imagine, that's what I mean, like imagine what it will be when that connection behind the screen becomes just totally overlapped to where like you get that, they get that rush of social acceptance. Their hands on the mouse, their fingers on the keyboard, they have their headset on, and like this is me, and like imagine when you are behind the eyes of that character. Like when you're in that game for real, like you really are looking out and like looking down and like you're seeing, looking in a mirror and you're looking at your character, that's crazy. Like that's gonna change. People won't want to ever stop. Like they'll maybe get a job just so they can stay alive or whatever, It's crazy.
Okay. Yeah, that is pretty crazy. And you're referring to when virtual reality starts becoming that crazy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which
that'd
isn't
be
too
interesting.
far off.
Yeah.
30 years and huge advancements are going to be made. And it's funny, I was thinking about it the other day, like, man, any other time in history and throughout your 80 years of living, and 80 years is huge. Back then it was 40, something like that, on average. So throughout your 40 years, nothing changed.
Yeah.
Like nothing. Like some guy would have been like, "Oh yeah, did you hear about that new thing? Like they made this wheel that can spin better." And it's like, "Oh wow, that's the biggest thing that's happened in 100 years." You know? But now it's just so quick.
Yeah.
Like just new. And
Yeah, that's
huge,
an interesting one.
And huge leaps.
Like think about like what we came across like in our years. 27, 28.
Yeah.
We lived through the advent of the internet.
Biggest thing of all time.
Yeah.
The biggest thing in history.
We got to see the advent of reusable rockets.
Yeah.
What else? We might just see AI become conscious.
I mean, we're at least gonna see it become fucking powerful.
Yeah.
Maybe not general, but definitely powerful as fuck.
And we might also see like the next moon landing again. So
and bigger things than that, like things that
and we're just 27, like 28, like
imagine explaining to a physicist even 100 years ago CERN's Large Hadron Collider. Like, what a technological achievement that is. Like, people don't really think about it. Like, that is insane that primates built something like that can contain singular particles, spin them around close to the speed of light, smash them together, and then record the results of what comes out. That's crazy. And I've actually been doing a lot of reading recently into the LHC.
Yeah.
And they were already, because over time there's an intellectual what's the word? It's remember the law of something returns.
Oh yeah.
Do you know what that's called? Do you know what the word is for that?
Yeah.
Diminishing. So there's an intellectual law of diminishing returns on something like that. So over time, they've discovered what they could, and so the amount of knowledge they're gaining from it goes lower and lower.
Yeah.
And eventually everything you can learn from that specific thing is gone. From that technology. So they're already looking. There's ways that they can increase the luminosity, increase the power, and they're doing those upgrades, which will give them a little more.
Mm-hmm.
But they're already planning something about 30 years from now, where they're making. Right now, it's about the power is 14 TeV. Which is, I think it's tera electron volts. And they're already talking to the international community, like the countries in the surrounding areas, about building a ring that's so big that it spans multiple countries and is going to be 100 TeV, which is huge difference.
Yeah.
And like just so they can like get deeper into it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's the real like building blocks of reality type shit, you know?
But I mean, like that's really interesting. But I'm wondering how close they'll be to building that as opposed to getting to build things in outer space. Like it just sounds like.
Well, I think eventually they'll need to. Like if they really want to do something. I'm
thinking about like how much that's gonna cost as opposed to,
I know. Well, that's why
like it'd probably be way cheaper to just fly it all out into outer space rather than fucking with all these countries.
Yeah, but not interstellar. I guess that could be the word used. Like in interstellar construction. We haven't really gotten that yet. Like there's certain things that would make it way easier because like no gravity, but you still need like tons of guys out there in spacesuits and like it's funny because we'll be continuing to make these advancements until general AI, and then once you hit general AI, that's it. Like you could imagine if our world was more cooperative, we could just be like, all right, let's just wait on all this stuff, and let's just all funnel our resources into a safe, aligned general AI. Because once we hit that, all this other stuff is pointless. We'll get it. You know, it comes with it. So let's just focus everything on that.
When I think of that, I'm thinking of like all the things that get funded. Fuck racism. Fuck prejudice.
Yeah.
Fuck all your rights.
Yeah.
Let's just go for this real quick.
Yeah.
Whole bunch of depression happening, and then we get AI, and then shit's gonna be all good. That'd be hilarious.
And speaking of AI, one thing that I did want to talk about today was capitalism versus socialism, and how there's this like battle going on where like there's people that are like against capitalism, against the idea of like the rich, and like they're getting richer, and like the elite, the 1%, and then there's the other side who's saying, well, like that's bad, yeah, but like socialism clearly doesn't work. We can't go like socialism has never worked in every place that's tried it, which is true, you know. And then the other side says, well, it's never really been done the way it's supposed to be done, and you know, there's a whole bunch of reasons why socialism doesn't work in the way that it's been tried, at least, because there's no motivation to do better things, because you're gonna, you know, and then you're gonna get paid regardless, and there's no motivation to work harder or to innovate. There's nothing that prevents the money from being funneled up to like the oligarchy at the top, because everything's government controlled. And the more I think about it, it's like the more I don't know where I stand, because I see what people are saying about capitalism. There's a problem like with the rich becoming so like the richer you are, the more advantage you have. And so eventually, like we're in this system now where so much power and control has been shifted to people with money that we're having a difficult time taking it away or taking it back, you know, like lobbyists and all sorts. Anything that's financially driven, it's like unbeatable. We just can't. There's nothing that we can do. And politically, it's on both sides. You know, it's like a totally different fight. Now, yes, I would admit that more liberals are like arguing against capitalism, and than conservatives, but even that's kind of iffy, because a lot of people like this is a class art discussion, you know, like this is a class war, like rich versus poor type of thing. And it's interesting because I think that socialism, or some form of it, is the way to go eventually. Like with AI and universal basic income, and like in the future, that is, I think that's where we'll be, where we'll have to be. There'll be no good reason not to. Like when everything is provided for us, so that there is no, like the reason it doesn't work now is because you basically you get your job or whatever, but you can't get rich. That's how socialism basically is now. You can't get rich because that's not the point. It's all spread equally, you know.
Yeah.
But in a future where everything is provided.
Well, let's clarify that, because I think the getting rich part is what needs to be clarified. You can't get rich in socialism now, doing the work that you're only able to do, and then compare your riches to somebody else who's maybe getting paid more. Like, you can't get rich. You can't. It starts to get complicated when comparing riches, or
well, you can't get rich in socialism because it's spread equally. So if you're a doctor and you're a ditch digger,
yeah,
you're a ditch digger, and you're a doctor, those people make the same amount of money.
Yeah.
In socialism as we know it.
Yeah.
Which is why people hate it, you know. And no one wants to be a doctor because, well, why would I, type of thing, you know. Or no one wants to be a business owner, whatever, you know. No one wants to innovate because they're not going to get any more money from it.
Yeah.
And that's a huge problem. But what about when all of that
when all of that gets
optional?
provided? Yeah.
Yeah, when it's you innovate because you can. That's the reason, because there's no limit. It's like I think we discussed before. I think that socialism doesn't work in our world today. And I think that capitalism is the way to go.
Mm-hmm.
But it's fucked up that the only way that we could possibly help people that are struggling today is it's compassion dependent. So the rich almost have to be like, I want to help you, because you can't take it away, because that starts to ruin the purpose, you know. That's like you're now tending towards socialism.
Yeah.
If you start to tax them extremely high, and you'll be right back where you started, where like people won't want to do it. But it's compassion dependent, and clearly not enough people are compassionate to where they want to give tons and tons of their money away to help people that are struggling. And it seems like they're just going to get away with it until we can bring, and we did talk about this before, until we can bring the poor up to their level, you know? And that's what's going to happen, you know, when technology gets so good that we can do that, when we can elevate the poor instead of bring down the rich. Instead of bringing the rich down to bring the poor up. The only way it's going to work is to keep the rich where they are and bring the poor up to them. Yeah. Which is going to take a lot longer. Yeah. Unless there was a compassion virus that spread and everyone started wanting to give away tons of their money. Yeah. And it's interesting because back in the day, socialists were criticized because most of them were like socialist philosophers were criticized by people saying like they're in the Grand Abyss Hotel, like they're in their comfy houses, you know, overlooking the world, saying socialism, that's how it should be, you know what I mean, while they're sitting there totally fine, you know what I mean, and they don't really understand like how it's worked to get them to where they are, you know, like, and today I feel like it's the opposite, where most philosophers are like, yeah, socialism doesn't work, like capitalism is the way it has to be, like you know, you have to work for what you get, and like, because you know that's how a lot of people say, like that's like the whole thing, like if you work hard enough and whatever, and you can change your life, like if you don't like the way if you don't like your job, quit, like type of thing, you know. And it's the same idea though, like they're in their Grand Abyss hotels, like just staring over, like, why does that guy work hard, you know what I mean. There's certain things that there are certain blocks in place that make it extremely hard for an average person to succeed in the world today. And the reason is that because the people that are wealthy put them there. Specifically, you know, because, you know, bought out their competition, or they crushed their competition by putting the prices so low that a small business owner can't survive, and little things like that, you know. Cutting regulation that's meant to protect the average citizen and the middle class. So that's interesting. Yeah, the socialist capitalist dichotomy it's a problem. and I'm not sure the best way to solve it. Because just hoping that everyone's just gonna like
catch the virus, like you said.
yeah, like they're just gonna have a revelation and oh my god, like the
Yeah.
world is suffering, and I have all this money, I could still live really good and give this money to help, you know, and not just give the money to help like feed them for a day, but like really change the system, you know. But I don't think that's gonna happen. So there's like, you know, you have the Bernie Sanders of the world who are like, you know, we need a living wage and universal health care, but there's, unless people really want to help, there's always a way around it. You raise the wage, they raise the prices, you know, like what can you do? Like, let's just take the living wage for example. Like, these are people that are giving away time out of their life, you know, their time is worth more, no matter what. No matter what they're doing, this is an hour out of their life doing something that they don't want to do. Like, this is the one life you have to live, you know, and you're just giving away hours of it for what, $7 an hour? That's crazy. 15 to me is crazy. Like, these are hours out of your life. Like, you should be able to really do something with what you've gained from that hour. You know what I mean? And you can't. And if you have, like, say you made it so they had to raise the wage to $20 an hour, everything would, the prices of everything would skyrocket. But why? You know, like how could you prevent that? Because the whole reason is they want to make the same amount of money. You know, so whatever you raise it by, they'll raise the percentage of prices equally so that their profits don't change. But like, I don't know how you could do that before I feel like there has to be a way where you could make it so, like, you know how the tax the rich thing is a problem because people won't want to be rich if all their money is taxed. There has to be a way where it's still worth it to become rich, even if most of your money is being taken away. Do you know what I mean? So there's got to be a percentage or like a system that could be put in place. So say you're a billionaire, but as soon as you become a billionaire, they tax whatever amount, you know? It's still worth it to become a billionaire because then you're still making however much, you know? Like, say they tax half of it, then you're still making 500 million, you know? So I don't believe the whole idea that people wouldn't want to like become rich because it wouldn't be worth it, you know? They need to have a system where once you have a certain amount of money, then like they start taking more or whatever, you know?
Yeah. I think that's an interesting, especially with the whole taxing thing. Like, and there's a reason why there are like certain things you can do that would limit how much you get taxed, like donating to charity or whatever.
Yeah.
Which I mean, if we're to take the headlines or whatever you can Google on a lot of these rich people as truth, like a lot of the people who are rich do tend to donate a lot of their stuff to charities, which is pretty much what was going to happen.
A lot of them really don't, though. The one I know, like the people you're talking about, but when you look at the percentage of people that are just say millionaires and higher, even like let's go even more than that. Let's go billionaires. The percentage of billionaires that actually do give away like high percentages of their income, it's not that many, you know? Like, they give away what they can for the tax breaks, but then really after that, like, it's nothing compared to what they have. You know what I mean? Like, there's some people like Bill Gates. I heard that he's planning on donating like most of his money when he dies.
Yeah.
And that's cool. That's what it needs to be. You know. I think Warren Buffett is another one. He's like the third richest person in the world, and he's doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Speaking of rich people, you probably heard that what's his name is now the richest person in the world. He's the first.
Bezos.
Yeah, Jeff Bezos. He's the first person to break 100 billion.
Yeah.
So he's a centi billionaire.
Oh shit.
First centi billionaire ever.
What's the name of that other dude from China? Jack Ma or something?
Maybe.
I think he's like right after him or something.
But imagine what he could do, with Jeff Bezos, if he really wanted to. Like, $1 million a year is so much money. Like, why do you need any more than that? You know? Like, herein lies the problem. We shouldn't have to tax the rich. Like, when people argue against it, it's like, then why? Like, I agree, but then why aren't you helping? You know what I mean? Like, there's so much suffering in the world. Why aren't you helping when you can by so much? You know? And the argument always is, I worked for this, you know? And I worked for this. I'm not gonna, like, whatever. Like, I'm not gonna give it to leeches that just wanna, like, not have to work for their own money or whatever. But it's like, nah, come on. Like, that there's plenty of people that are what's the working poor, you know?
Yeah.
Like, the working poor is huge. People that have full-time jobs and just don't make enough to live. Like, that shouldn't even be a thing.
I would have to really look into like what percentage of rich people don't donate a lot of their money, because if they don't, and that's the reason for the whole tax cut thing, because if they're not already donating their money to charity, the taxes come through and donate, and I donate in quotation, but it spreads the money around.
Yeah, but here's the problem.
Where they would have originally if they had chosen to.
Here's the problem. The taxes, that's idealistic. Like, I'm just talking about the taxes, like, as an example. But in reality, taxes don't actually, like, the government's just going to spend that on whatever they want. It's not actually going to help people. Do you know what I mean? You're far better off just donating to charity. Because,
well, you're going to have to explain that to me, because the government is supposed to be...
But the government's just going to spend that on what? Military, mostly? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, the taxes just go towards what they want it to go to. So, like, when you're talking about things that will really help people that are suffering in the world, and, like, you really need a whole, like, a full system change, you know? Like, and that's the problem, because the more money you have, the more power you have, and the more you can prevent those changes from happening. And so now we're stuck in this cycle of that's why I think socialism, a form of it, is the way that we're eventually going, but I don't think that change will come until we can bring the poor up to the rich, because the rich is never going to stop. They're never going to. Because the true problem is not capitalism, but consumerism. When you combine the two together, it's vicious. And you have all these rich people that are, like, either just hoarding their money or spending it on the most dumbest shit, you know? Like anything that's worth doing in this life, pretty much, if you have $1 million, you got it. Like, you can do it. You know, like, if you're making $1 million a year, you can do it. There's nothing, like, anything beyond that is just material bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, You can travel, you can be comfortable, you can have a nice place, blah 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 blah. Like with $1 million a year, you can do that. Anything beyond that is just consumerism. It's just material wealth. You know, that's the problem. Like they're never gonna, like I said with the working poor, that shouldn't exist. If you are working, you should be 100% okay. That should just be the rule. Like if you're working in a country that as wealthy as the United States, then you should just know like, oh, I got a job, I'm good. I know that I can pay my bills. I know that that I'm at least gonna be okay. Like a job should be the equivalent of like a universal basic income. Like it covers all the necessities for sure. You know? Like that's what a job should be. But it's not for a lot of people, you know?
Yeah, nice. I like that. That's good.
So that would at least be a step, you know? But even that wouldn't work because, like I said, as soon as you do, like, it would be interesting if there was a way that you could raise the wages while, like, putting in, and that's the problem is because when you start putting in these little caveat laws, it sounds like socialism. So people get, they get pissed real quick. Like, if you raised minimum wage so there was no working poor, but you also included a law that somehow, I don't know how you do it, but somehow prevented them from raising the prices of their products with it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you do that, like there has to be some way, but I just don't know how, there like some law that somehow like holds, like caps their profit.
Yeah.
That's very socialistic, capping the profit of a company. Like that's kind of crazy,
Yeah. Because you also have to think about the little small companies who have to deal with that too. Because you're raising the wage, this goes for everybody. And then if like little companies do get affected by that wage, like the capitalist structure is gonna hold in place now, even maybe more, because these guys who are abiding by the rules, just like the big guys, but aren't able to hold under
right
all of it, is gonna get.
You know what should have been done from the very beginning? They should have capped how much a person can make. That's what they should have done. So you get to a point and you just can't make anymore. Like no matter what after that, everything goes to whatever. You know what I mean? So it's still worth it to get there, and then people would say, well, there would be no innovation but that's not true, because you put the cap high enough to where it's still luxury, you know what I mean? You're still rich, but after that, any excess money just gets absorbed into the system, right? And so maybe once you get there, you'll be like, oh, okay, well, I'm not going to try any harder but that's fine, because the people that are truly passionate about it, like, they're going to do it anyways, because they're actually passionate about it. And it's not like you're not living really well. So like you're still living really well. You don't have to worry about anything. And if you really enjoy doing this, then you're just going to keep doing it. And if you want to keep making that cap amount of money, like the highest amount you can make, then you have to keep up, because there's other people that aren't making that want to. And they're going to keep working to catch up to you. Do you know what I mean? So you have to keep innovating anyways, or you're going to get knocked down from your cap income.
Yeah. I think that's an interesting thing. Also, this kind of relates back to this story that I think I told you once before. It was from an article. I don't know if you remember this. It was where a company is doing pretty well, and they have the option to raise the prices on their goods.
Yeah.
Or decrease the prices on their goods because the demand is so high. They choose to go ahead and raise the prices on their goods. The distribution of that profit then becomes an issue because the unions are fighting for their workers to get higher wages so that they can afford those same products, or the profit goes to the owners of the businesses.
But there's unions are uncommon. Most businesses.
Well, the union is just like a figure for the worker. So the workers then don't just look at unions. Just like look at workers. The workers want, since the company has gone and raised the price of their goods, the workers who are also customers who are using these goods have to pay more now.
Right.
The demand is so high, they chose to go and raise the prices.
Right.
As opposed to if they had gone ahead and kept the same price as demand went up, or maybe even lowered the price, or did something other than raise the price in light of higher demand.
Right.
Because now everybody has to pay more. And then that becomes a whole cycle of, well, now I need more money because the thing I'm making costs more than what I can afford. And now the demand is going up. Now they got to raise it again. And so it becomes a cycle of, I think, and this article I think was.
But eventually they can't afford it, right? So
yeah, which is pretty much.
Go back down. Like there's a level there's probably a level at which they can raise the price. Like say demand's going up, they can raise the price to a point where if they raise it any higher, demand will drop because people are like, fuck it, I'm not buying that. It's too expensive.
Well, I think that's kind of where our economy is. Yeah, you see the American economy has never gone down since its inception.
Right, but
it has constantly gone up. It's never seen a drop.
But it only looks that way. It like, because people argue that all the time. Like, look, the economy's doing so well, but under this guy or this guy or this and that. But really, it's not the It's not the economy. It's the people that are making the money. Like the rich are doing really well. You know what I mean? There's an easy way to take advantage of the middle class, and that's they're desperate. You take advantage of their desperation. You can do whatever, and most of them, like a union's different because they actually have power. That's why there's a big difference between a union and just a worker. Because a union actually has some power where they can organize strikes and this and that. But for the most part, it's people that can't say no. They can't say, give me more money or I quit. Because either A, they'll say, go ahead, quit. Or B, they'll just fire him and replace someone else. You know?
Yeah.
Like there's so when you have desperation at the level that you do, that there's not much leverage you have over these companies. And by the way, I'm not even socialist at all. Like I think that capitalism is the only way. I just think that it's mutated into this monstrous thing that we can't control, and that there's a better way to go about it.
Yeah, and I think the reason it's gone out of control, or not the reason, but I think, I don't know who has control. I wouldn't say any one class has control. Like the rich definitely have, or are perceived to like have more control, and they probably do have more control than other classes. But like, as to if they have the control over what's happening, I wouldn't put it in their hands. I don't even think that.
Well, no, I don't think that there's anything like that. I think I think it's just the system was put in place, and like this is it. This is the system just playing out.
Yeah.
But, and people say that all the time. Like, no, there's no like group of elites that are like running the world. Like, just people. It's just a bunch of people.
Yeah.
But the fact is that people are making these decisions. So there is a group of people. It's just hundreds and thousands of groups of people that are always making the decision to make more money and fuck over the people who aren't. Like, that decision is constantly being made every day, over and over.
Yeah.
It's a perpetual decision. Like imagine a guy in a board meeting saying, you know, these people aren't making enough. Let's actually bring the wage up, whatever, and like we're doing pretty well. Why don't we all lower our wage and let's give it to the people that are making us all the money? They would laugh him out of the room, you know. It's so. I agree that it is a system and whatever, but it is bad people doing it. You know, like people always say like, no, it's not bad people. It's like it's just the way the system is. But that's not really true. It is bad people.
Yeah. No. Well, I feel like
people.
that it's a mixture. I don't know if bad people are even like a big part of it. I would definitely say that they're capitalizing off of like what they're in. They see it playing out. They're in this position now, and they're like, shit, things have been going well so far, and it looks like I have an opportunity to do even better. I might as well utilize this opportunity.
Right,
so they're definitely like a product. Yeah.
Of others.
Yeah, they're a product of a system that we're all in. But I think the decisions that you're referring to, maybe that you're not directly referring to, but I would say there are decisions being made, but they're decisions being made through ignorance. Like, people have made these decisions with good intentions, possibly. Like, they were probably just like small business owners, and they've helped to grow this system into what it is ignorantly. They didn't realize what would come of the decisions that they've made. I think that's what our system is a product of.
Maybe at some point, but I think that for the most part, we're talking about greedy executives that want more money. Like, it's not that maybe at first they had good intentions, but as soon as they started making money, they, like, the true human condition comes out, you know? Like, you can say what you want, but once you start making real money, you just want more money, you know? You just want more and more and more. And people that... That's why I said this is what happens when you combine capitalism with consumerism. It's this horrible, and it's a cycle that feeds itself, because the more you promote consumerism, the more that like capitalism promotes consumerism to begin with, because you want to make more money, so you want people to want stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and when people want stuff, you're creating more of these, you know, quote unquote wanters that are gonna take advantage of capitalism to make even more.
Yeah, that I feel like you can't really separate consumerism from capitalism. That I've never.
But you could. You I mean, it's possible.
By definition, sure, but like, what does a consumerist society look like without capitalism?
Okay. No, I agree. So you can't. I would say this: you can't have consumerism without capitalism.
Yeah, I think they're both the same society.
But you can have capitalism without consumerism.
Without consumerism?
Yeah, I mean, it's just basically it would essentially just be a culture that doesn't put so much value on shit. You know.
Ah, yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It would just be a culture that doesn't put so much value on material wealth. That's all it would, like that's all consumerism is. So imagine taking capitalism
Yeah.
and
So in that regard, capitalism could be good then. Just
if you
put your
you excised consumerism from it.
put your ideals somewhere else.
But I would agree that at this point it's so entangled.
Yeah.
It would be hard not to. And I think that that's what people wanted when they voted for Donald Trump. You know, they wanted this. They wanted to blow the system up because they see like it's just, you know, politicians and like they're all like there's Democrat and Republican, but they're really just both for the corporations and it's true. And they hoped that I think that Trump supporters, and I'm not talking about the like ones that are actually like racist and that type of thing, you know, but I think that the Trump supporters that voted for him for that reason are like subconsciously spirit crushed at this point because it's just more bullshit, you know? He's doing this and that, but really it's just more bullshit. Like it's not, there's really nothing different, you know? Like yeah, he's crazy and out there, like totally unusual president, but really in the grand scheme of things, it's more bullshit. Like he's just helping the corporations, like you know, like they always do.
Yeah.
And there's
where the supporters, or at least the ones who were going for the view that he was going for the little man, thought he was going for the little man, but
yeah, and I don't know if it, you know, it's, remember last